Good day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today guys, I want to talk about Planetside a little bit. And when I say about Planetside, I'm more or less referring to its sandbox nature, and in turn, the effect that that has on the gameplay we experience on a day-to-day basis, and the community that revolves around it. So to get this video off to a start, I want to take a step back and ask you guys all a question. You log into Planetside 2 for the evening after a long day at work. What does your session look like? What are your objectives in the session? Are you going to jump into your outfit's voice comms and start planning on how you're going to secure the continent for a victory? Are you going to load in with your sweatiest heavy assault loadout and look to improve your infantry gameplay and stats? Are you going to jump into a vehicle and provide armored support with a few buddies? I want you guys to all now take a good, long, hard think about what an average session in this game entails for you. Okay. I'm now willing to bet that there will probably be at least 10, maybe 20 different answers to that question. Planetside 2 is very unique in the sense that it is a sandbox environment where we are given freedom to choose how we are going to complete an objective in the game. There are, dare I say, hundreds of ways to kill a player in this game, and there are also many different strategies and tactics that outfits employ for capturing bases, dealing with point holds, vehicle armor columns, hell, even Bastion fleet carriers. At times you'll even see large-scale, long-term, faction-wide plans that set their eyes on a successful alert win. You get the idea. Planetside gives players a few set objectives and a ton of toys to play with, and well, the rest is entirely up to you, the player, and that does some good things for the game. It, for one, gives Planetside 2 a truly endless amount of replayability. We see it on Reddit, YouTube, and Twitch all the time, the creativity that is employed by the player base that let them accomplish different things in unique ways. I am to this day still learning new things about particular playstyles that I've been working on for years, and I'm still discovering new ways to play the game entirely. I still haven't inserted at all into the construction system and my galaxy, leaving some stars of play still open for me to explore if I choose to do so. This freedom of how you can engage with the game in a session is what keeps us coming back every day, and when you have players on the opposing factions engaging in their own way, it creates unique battles that keep us coming back for a new experience every day. Every session has the capacity to act out in a unique way compared to the session you had previously, but the sandbox nature is a double-edged sword, especially when combined with the vast scale of the game. When you give players this sandbox environment that lets them create their own path towards a baseline objective, you sort of run the risk of confusing the hell out of newer players. We all know that the Planetside 2 new player experience has never been perfect. In fact, yeah, it's been pretty bad. We had the old tutorial that ran you through how to shoot, move, navigate the terrain, capture bases and pull vehicles, but then new players are left to work out how to navigate this sandbox experience on their own, and quite frankly, it's intimidating as all hell. Now, that's not to say that a sandbox game cannot be unsuccessful and inaccessible at the same time. You have games like Minecraft, which are PvE orientated, where that sort of delving into the unknown and that act of discovery is what keeps players coming back after the game has been out for many, many years. But in the case of Planetside 2, where we've taken the sandbox design philosophy and thrown it into a PvP environment, new players are going to be going against more experienced players who have been learning the intricacies of the tools that they've been using and the maps they've been playing on for years now. And when that happens, there is a huge gap in the understanding of the game. And that gap can only really be bridged when that new player in mind is willing to spend the time experiencing the different playstyles the game has to offer, understanding them, and then understanding how to apply them to different situations correctly, and most importantly, incorrectly. It's honestly a process of trial and error, and Planetside 2 is one of those shooters that really requires some of the most trial and error in all the shooters out there to come to a level of understanding that will come even close to matching that of the veterans that have been here for years. So in that, one of Planetside 2's greatest assets and tools for creating almost endless replay value can also be one of its weaknesses. We've discussed this in the past quite a bit in other videos addressing the new player experience, And on those occasions, I've always made it clear that I believe that the core of the game, that being the weapon mechanics, the class mechanics, and the objective mechanics, are not the core of the problem. It's the goal of understanding how to apply these basic level mechanics in a successful way in a large-scale sandbox environment that creates the issues at hand. But the new player experience is something that we cover, every 6 months or so? It's something that could take up a whole video on its own, and I'm not ready for that conversation today. There's another effect that comes from the sandbox nature of this game that I would like to address as well, and that is an effect that it has on the long-standing community. Let me explain. The reason I bring up this video now is because in one of my most recent live streams, we ended up discussing the up-and-coming Esamir changes, and a small subsection of the community here made their displeasure for the removal of the biolabs very clear in the chat. They enjoyed the lacking presence of vehicles and the ability to just focus on improving on their infantry versus infantry skill without interruption. Some just like the biolabs for the intent of farming up their directives. But the one part of the conversation that really stuck to me was a comment that went something like this. I just don't see how players can enjoy X, Y, and Z playstyles. It's not a great way to improve towards being a skillful player. And that statement right there is the very core of the problem that you face when you give a sandbox environment a player versus player gameplay style. We've all been in this exact situation. You're playing the game the way you enjoy it and get clapped by some guy sitting on a hill hash farming, or a sniper sitting hundreds of meters from the battle line, or that Liberator or Valkyrie that keeps coming in for those bombing runs. And it ticks you off a little bit. You get mad about that particular thing, and clearly it's overpowered and ruining your experience that you consider enjoyable. So you do the one thing that we all do from time to time. We go to Reddit and we complain. And the amount of threads that I've seen stating that things like infiltrators, mech suits, heavy assaults, shotguns, you name it, vehicles, whatever, I've seen requests for pretty much everything that is in this game to be deleted from the game at one point or another. Sometimes there is rational argument that questions the place of these items in the game. Sometimes it's just pure blind hatred. And this is natural in a game like this. We all have our way that we like to play the game, and with enough practice, we often get pretty good at that particular element of the game. But as soon as someone comes against us with a playstyle that we don't consider to be enjoyable, or dare I say, skillful, then it's hard for us to rationalize why they are playing that way. For example, I see a lot of hatred driven towards shotguns, with a common line being, oh, he's using a shotgun, he must be really bad, or how can he enjoy playing the game in such a boring way? But what we must understand is that to that player, that is fun. He's enjoying a playstyle that the game provides to invest in and get good with, and as a result, they are a returning player to the game. I've seen the same complaints about players who will quote-unquote zerg a base with little to no resistance. Once again, to some, having fun is getting together with a small outfit of high-skill players and trying to hold out against unfavourable odds. To others, fun is slamming down on a base with 48 of your mates, no matter the numbers, for shits and gigs. There's always going to be this disparity between the community as to what is fun in the game and not, only because Planetside gives players a lot of ways to make their own fun in this game. Not everyone in this game comes into it with the intent of being the next 5KD, 2kpm big grug that graces Araxis, and if you choose to get into the game with this mindset, then that is more than fine. That's your way of finding fun in the game. But some are just going to want to sit in a field with a sniper rifle and sniping passerbys, landing those sweet shots that took some time to calculate. Some just want to provide aerial support to their allies on the ground, which, yes, does mean breaker rocket potting spamming them. And while yes, those very players may annoy the shit out of you when they kill you, the kill they just scored on you may very well could be the reason that they choose to come back to the game tomorrow. And when they decide to get on the ground and actually fight within a base, you may have the skills to then take them out. But there still needs to be a way for that player to have fun to keep them coming back. It's not all about a certain type of playstyle being the only way to play. There's plenty of correct ways to play in this game, just some you may not consider fun, which is probably what annoys you about those playstyles. And by being a player who aims to score that big KD 2 kpm, you could very well be a thorn in the ass of many other players you come across. There are many situations where I come across a particular player on Connery that I recognize just purely based on their aesthetics of their character, and I shit myself every time I see this player because I know for a fact they're better than me and they're probably going to end up killing me and ruin this streak that I've been going on. But hey, I see it as a challenge. I see it as a way to improve my skills, to adopt a new strategy, to adopt a class and a build that will throw them off. And when it does happen and when I do come out on top, it feels good. It feels like a successful attempt at a challenge. But I digress. There is a point to all this here. Yes, there can be some incredibly cheesy tactics in this game. Yes, there can also be some incredibly purist ways to look at the game as well, and how it should be played. All I ask is that when a player kills you in a way that you don't find enjoyable or skillful or whatever, challenge your opinion of that playstyle or that player. Maybe they're trying to directive hunt. Maybe they're just trying something new. They're trying to spice up their Planetside 2 experience. Maybe they're just enjoying the game. Don't go off your lid saying that the thing is overpowered because they murdered you in record time as a result. Maybe in that exact moment in time, they had the advantage. And try to understand that in another situation, your chosen playstyle is probably the superior option to pick. I should also clarify that yes, there is always going to be room for conversation surrounding balance. We do it a lot here on the channel. Sometimes things do break the barrier of balance and become slightly overpowered or underpowered, and with rational, well thought out conversation, those concerns can be addressed. But there is always going to be a situation where a playstyle that you may consider to be your favorite is beaten. With that, I challenge you to arm yourself with a variety of ways to play the game to approach the situations you're faced with. You like to run infantry mainly? Maybe learn how to, run a lightning to counter that tank that is shelling your spawn room from the edge of the hex. As Albert Einstein once said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. If you do not adapt to the scenario at hand by just running at the same fight with the same build you've crafted, then you're going to fall short on the most important thing when it comes to playing a game, your enjoyment of it. If you've noticed a threat, but you choose to do nothing about it, that's not the fault of the guy that's sitting in a tank farming your spawn room with a Hesh lightning. That's up to you to make that difference. You can do that. The game gives you the tools to fall back a couple of bases, pull a vehicle of your own, and go and counter them. Or work with some teammates. Grab a Sundra, put multiple heavy assaults in it, pull up behind them, and bam, ambush the sucker. There are ways to get around players that are annoying you. It's just up to you to make the decision to make that happen. Utilize the tools you have access to. Everyone in this game has access to relatively the same tools. Experiment when you're faced with threats that your current playstyle can't effectively cope with, and who knows, you might be able to find a new loadout to add to your arsenal that lets you enjoy the game still when someone is giving you a hard time. The sandbox nature of this game is what keeps it so interesting. It's up to you as a player to find enjoyment in whatever the game throws at you. For me, that comes with keeping an open mind and enjoying the challenge that comes from overcoming a particular threat that my enemy chooses to throw my way. Yes, there are many controversial elements of the game, like shotguns, like Hesh lightnings, like max suits, and all the bells and whistles. With all due respect, guys, those things aren't going to be removed anytime soon. In fact, they will probably never be removed from the game outright. People have paid real money to unlock stuff for these classes, these vehicles, and these weapons. It's not really a simple case of refunding them once they get removed. So guys, all I say is that challenge your mentality in a sandbox environment. Make sure that you're equipping yourself with all of the things you need to counter the playstyles you come across. And maybe you'll enjoy the game a bit more if you start seeing increased salt levels. It's something that I've been trying to do while playing this game lately to keep it fresh, and for me, it has been working, and I challenge everyone to do that as we see continental changes come, especially to Esamir in the coming weeks. But guys, with all that said, that kind of wraps up everything I wanted to talk about in this slightly longer and very conversational orientated video. It was definitely an interesting one, and I look forward to seeing what everyone has to say in the comment section down below. I could be completely off here, and I'm sure there's a particular subset of the community who want infiltrators, shotguns, tanks, everything deleted, and I'm sure I've pissed off every single one of them entirely. But we must understand, guys, you must keep an open mind with this game in order to enjoy it for the long term, and with that, I hope you guys can, share some happy thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed today's video, a backhand of the like button would go a long way, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, and if you want to support the channel for the long term, guys, then consider hitting that join button down below as well. It goes a long way in supporting the channel and supporting our growth here as well, and lets me do what I do here a bit more often. Once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.